It's 4:40 something now.
4:40, yeah.
Yeah, it's moving closer to 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like about 4.
We pray 4:40.
Yeah. So we still have it 5 o'clock, but we don't pray till about 5:15, 5:20.
Yes.
Because the sun rises at 6:05, so 6:06, yeah.
Yeah, even the Maghrib it's 7:54. Yeah. Allahu Akbar.
Yeah.
You need Maya home?
Yes.
I'll give you this. The other man. Yes. Yeah, you put it down here yesterday. She's the biryani. Remember you give it to me?
Oh, that was that one, yeah, because I know one of them kids was here, they was throwing them all around, so I didn't know.
That's what it is. So, yeah.
Okay. You could have left this, just give me the water, because there's nothing enough. Sheikh, thank you so much. Gracias.
De nada.
At least I got that right. They didn't call me senorita. I mess up. All my language is bad. My English, my Arabic, my French, the skin.
Mama Sia. Mama Sia.
But you know, one time we was talking about this LGBT stuff, and so we were talking
About some people, and then I said Zoj, and then you and the Islam would laugh. Y'all said la Zoja, but the Arabs you can use Zoj for both. If you go and look, Zoj and Nabi.
For everything.
Yeah, but you could say Zoj and Zoja with time Marbuta, but you could say Zoj for both. It just made me think about that. At least I got that part right. But my languages, I need to go back to language school.
No,
my Arabic, my English, my French.
Now we're gonna start speaking Moroccan.
Softly.
You really know Barbar. Maghribi, Safi.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. As we were just talking about the Salat al-Isha, Maghrib, these times are changing. It reminds me of our noble Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. أظن تبارك وتعالى قد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة. That you'll find in the messenger the best example for you to follow. And from his example that he would delay the Isha. I'm not telling people to make it proper. In your community, fight with the imam, the locals. These days we have boards, Allah most administrations, and they try to say they measure this ashura and all of this political talk that sometimes seemingly control the masjid and the affairs. I'm not saying fight with any of those people in their own right to have their authority and positions and leadership, in which we need all of that. But we're just saying the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would delay the Isha sometime until they said nisful layl, or qarib ila nisful layl, close to half past, the night, midnight we call. So much so that one occasion Umar said, Ya Rasulullah, people are nodding their heads, some were sitting, waiting like this, some were laying down, and the Prophet said, okay, come. And he said, if it was not that It wouldn't make a difficulty on the people. I would make the time for Isha this time, which was very late. And some of the ulama, they said that is because if the Prophet came at the time of Isha, when it, comes in its earliest time period, and nobody was there, then he would delay it, because sometimes people are very tired from working all day. Imagine you in the desert, you have no 7-Eleven, no quick trip, you don't have these convenience stores to get water and nice juice and, Gatorade, these things we take for granted. So they have to sleep. And many scholars said that it's makruh and tanamu qabl al-isha, that it's not like sleep before Isha. Because maybe you will sleep before Isha and you wake up in the Fajr and you didn't pray Isha. But because of the need, then they would sleep after they prayed Maghrib in order to have some rest to pray Salat al-Isha. So this reminds me, because oftentimes if we're set on a time in our masajid, people are so strict by the time, they even fight with the imam. It's at 7:30 and it's 7:33 and a half. Are you serious? It's not. They'll take it easy, But it reminds me of this issue, because many times the time changes, our salat ways and our schedules change because of the time change. And we don't think about those challenges during the life of the Prophet, his companions, and how, they were human, although they were the greatest of people. After the prophets and messengers, those companions, they used to go through a lot of what we go through today. And that's one example, waiting for salat, tired, nodding, it's late. They also said if the Prophet came and people were there, and it was in the earlier time period, then he would pray. Why? So that people could go home and relax and this and that. So it shows you the beauty and the ease of Islam. It shows you the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how he described our Nabi as rahmatan lil alameen, and mercy to all of the creation. Now, alhamdulillah, we want to just talk a little bit about the death of our Sheikh, Abi Mujahid Fareed Abdullah, rahmatullah alayhi, rahmatan wasi'ah, in which he died now maybe a week ago, a little over a week. And notice I mentioned and Sheikh Muqbil, because there's a connection between the two. When Imam Muqbil came here from Yemen for surgery back in 2001. So there's a great story and connection between the two. I thought it would be nice to talk about that. It also gives a extra layer of respect and appreciation for who Sheikh Fareed was, and it also gives an extra mourning and an extra sadness for the loss of such a great person, as it relates to Sheikh Fareed Abdullah, known as Abu Mujahid Fareed Abdullah, Rabbi Allah, Rahimahum Allah Ta'ala. May Allah have mercy upon him. Amen. And I Imam Muqbil bin Haadee Al-Waadi'ee, Rahimahum Allah. I listened to, and I'll send it out. I'll go get the link. It brought me to tears when I listened to this talk. One of the students of Sheikh Fareed, subhanAllah, and I don't know his name, and he kept saying Hamza, that was his name before, and then he kept saying the Sheikh referred to Abu Salman, and he said he was living the East Coast. He left the East Coast and went to out west to study with the Sheikh. and spent about 18 years with the Sheikh. Incredible story. And just this, just give it a little bit, he said, so that the children, his children, that generation of his children, they can know who to take the knowledge from and who Sheikh Fareed was. Then he told the story, and it was tremendous. So I'm going to mention some points from that. And I'll send the link on my page. I don't think the Sheikh would mind. Allah bless him. I mean, very touching story. But I'm going to start by mentioning that the Imam, Muqbil bin Haadee Al-Waadi'ee, rahimahullah ta'ala, who was our Sheikh from Yemen. And you'll know the story of the Sheikh was that he was a Shia from the Zaydiyin of Sa'da, the province of Sa'da. Sa'da was a province in Yemen, and then in the district, another word for province, is a city. The main city there is called Sa'da. So Sa'da is the province, it's the district, it's the name of the district, and then in that district is the city called Sa'da. And then inside of Sa'da, then you have certain villages, and one of the names of the village is Damaj. And that was the name of the village of Sheikh Imam Muqbil. So the Sheikh, subhanAllah, Allah Akbar Kabir. Allah Akbar Kabir. The Sheikh, he, just a little bit, because I know I can go way off, so I'm pulling my own rope. Get back over here, Ukkasha. Not to go too far. The Sheikh, in a nutshell, was a Shia. And he always loved to study Imam Muqbil. But during that time, he said there was no one there to really study from except those people who were Shia. And they, again, were not the extreme Shia. They were the ones that people would consider closest to the Sunnah. So he would study with them, and he would mention some of their statements and books. And so he went, to make a long story short, to Saudi to work. He was very poor. And as he was working as a doorman in Mecca, he asked, being in that place, what books should I read? I'm a Muslim who loves the knowledge. What books can I read to learn the Sunnah? So they told him, get Sahihain, Bukhari and Muslim. They told him to get the work called Lu'lu' wal Marjan, where they put all of the hadiths muttafaqun alayh, agreed upon by Bukhari. Well, some people put that in one book, just agreed upon. Because you have what they agree upon, and then what Bukhari has is just his collection, and it's not a Muslim. And what Muslim and Bukhari agree upon, you'll find them both in their works, and then what's just in the Sahih of Muslims. So someone took all agreed upon, put it in one book, and called it Lu'lu' wal Marjan. So they told him, get that book. Told him to get Riyadh al-Salihin by Imam Nawawi. Told him to get Bulugh al-Maram by Ibn Hajar Asqalani. Told him to get some other books the Sheikh he mentioned. So he got those books and he started reading. He said when he started to read right away what he had been taught back home, he realized, wow, how far off, how, misguided, and how corrupt those teachers were. So as he worked and worked and worked, he stayed there for some years. I forgot how many. He went back to Yemen. And while he was there, he said, I'm going to give dawah. So then they told him, Uskut ya Muqbil, be quiet. He said, so Nusjinaka, we're going to lock you up, imprison you, the Sheikh said. They told him, if you give dawah. So the head of the place during that time said, you know what? He's been brainwashed by those Saudis, those Wahhabis. Yeah. Put him back in our school. We'll fix him. So they forced him to go back to their school of corruption. But the Sheikh, he knew from that experience and what he learned in Saudi, he couldn't study those works. So he just focused on the Lughat al-Arabiya, the Arabic language. So he would take this book called Qatar al-Nada, which is one of the higher books of the nahu wal-sarf, the grammar and the etymology of the words. The words change, fa'ala, fa'ila, fa'ula, tafa'ala, that science and how the sentence structure changes, ila, baitan, baitan, baiton, like this. Yeah, they call it nahu. So he studied that. Each time he finished the class, graduate, he'll take it again, because he knew he was safe for that. So he took that course 6 times, but it made him become an alim in the Arabic language. And we know that Imam Shafi'i and others said if you become strong in the Arabic language, then you'll become strong in all the other sciences, because the Arabic language is the key. Even to Quran. If your Arabic is weak, your Quran is going to be weak. Your recitation, you'll change the tashkil, and won't know you changing the meaning. You won't know this goes first and second. It will make your understanding bad. The Arabic is. So the Sheikh went back to Saudiya a second time, and he got in Mahad Qur'aniyya. Mahad Qur'aniyya, the Quran Institute. And he was finishing the program for Hifz when he got accepted to Jamaat Islamiyya in Medina. So he can't be in Mecca and Medina at the same time, so he goes to Medina. And he didn't graduate from the Hifz program, but he knew the Quran, he memorized it. And many people, when they hear his story, he talks about those who memorize the Quran. He will say, even in his lessons, sometimes the students, when we're talking about grown men, not little boy students, but the students, grown men, maybe they're goofing off playing, or he calls on them for an answer, and they don't know it because they're playing, they're distracted, and he would be ready to kick them out, the Sheikh, when we're in Yemen. And somebody would intervene on behalf of that student, that man, that person said, yeah, Abi Abdurrahman, that's Sheikh Muqbil's kunya nickname, Abi Abdurrahman. So the Sheikh will say, nah, and they will point to the one that didn't answer. He's goofing off, he's distracted. The Sheikh is ready to kick him out. He will say, Hafiz the Qur'ana, he memorized the Qur'an. Then the Sheikh will look to him, who is getting ready to kick out because of playing around and being distracted. Then he will say, Hafiz the Qur'ana, you memorized the Qur'an? Then that Sheikh student will say, nah, your Sheikh. He will say, Tayyib, let's give him a break. Because the hifz of the Quran, Allahu Akbar. And the Sheikh emphasized for us, Quran, have to memorize the Quran. Even I remember some brothers came from America to visit, and the way the masjid was huge, had like different interests. So there's one particular part of the masjid, like we pray, let's say we pray this way, but the length of the masjid is going the way I'm sitting. So you'll find people walking this way till they get to this amud. Then they'll turn around, go back till they get down into the next pillar or the end of the wall. So, and while they're walking, they have the masahif, the Quran open, walking, memorized. So you come in the masjid and you hear like these, and you see people do it like this. Like they're making tawaf. So he thought they were making, because that's all people know. That's in Mecca. When you see people doing that, that's worship. So they never said, what they doing? They're making tawaf. So no, they're just trying to keep from being sleepy and lethargic. They're memorizing the Quran. He was like, oh. And that's a method that the Yemenis will do. Other people probably do it too. They walk back and forth instead of sitting because you get sleepy. You get lazy. So that the Sheikh would emphasize in that Muqbil, the importance of memorizing the Quran. So that Sheikh, he became the Imam of Yemen. There's a long story. That Sheikh got sick from drinking water in Yemen because the water wasn't that good for us in Yemen. It had a parasite in the water. If you get the water from up on the mountain, you have a chance that it's cleaner, but you still have to worry about calcium deposits, lime, which now you got to deal with kidney stones. But if you get it from where people ran pipes to make it easy so you don't have to climb the mountain, and we don't mean climb a mountain and you'll fall down, but you walk up a hill. If you look back down, you see, wow, but you're actually going up a mountain. It just looks like a hill, but it's a mountain. And on top of that mountain is a pipe, a big pipe. Imagine like the face of a cannon that you stick the ball in and it comes out. A pipe big like that. I don't know how they did it. Wallahu Akbar. They stuck this pipe in the top of the mountain. And then they have some kind of apparatus. They call it the boomba. It's a machine with a long belt, a thick belt, on one end of the machine and another end. It's like two things that they have the belts on, like when you have a alternator belt and a power steering belt in the car. You have these things called pulleys. And the belt goes on these things, and then when you start the engine, the belts turn and they go around on those pulleys, and it makes those pieces of machine work. That's how they had this thing called the boomba. So they will crank it like the old Ford, 1929 Ford. You used to have to go on the front and crank it, and then to start, they do the boomba like this. They crank it, boom, 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 boom. And it pumps the water out the mountain, like Allah said in Surah Al-Baqarah. The water gushes forth from the mountain, from the rock. I see this, the water we drink in Yemen. So that's water. So we fill up these jugs, put it in wheelbarrows, and push it back to the house to drink. Although they had some plumbing for showering, the drinking was from that mountain. But the Sheikh, that was later on, once the Americans, the Brits, the Canadians, the people from Morocco, the people from different parts of Africa, and came and money started to come, then the people who had land and lived there, they started allowing people to buy land, build houses. They took that money, they made little shops, little stores, they did stuff to their gardens. It became an enhanced village. But during the early part of the life there, you only drink from the water. There's no higher way and no cleaning water. So the Sheikh had a parasite, Sheikh Muqbil, from the water. They drove him out of Yemen, got him to go into Serbia. There's a long story behind that. And then Serbia said the people that are most experienced in this treatment in the world are two. America, number one, Germany, number two.
Okay.
So he applied for a visa. And Mecca Allah. People plan and plot, but Allah has something for their plot, and Allah has the best plan. Although they said Imam Muqbil was a terrorist, although they used to lie in the Wall Street Journal, talk about that place, although they didn't want us studying there, Americans, they didn't. So you can't go to Yemen. We used to get locked up for going to study in Yemen. They used to send us back. Many people know I had name change. Why I changed name? To get back in the place. Because once they put your name, this country, in the Homeland Security, you can't get in. Man, listen, I changed my name here in the court. Our country going to know he changed his name. He changed his name from this to that, from Saud. My name was Saud Abdullah Muhammad. Everybody knows me. It's the only one in the dunya with one eye tall was in Yemen, that name. I changed the name, Ukkasha, do I remember how to get back in Yemen. Yemen is so backwards and old, they still write stuff in books. They wouldn't pick it up. America knows he changed his name. You change it in the court. It's legal, it's okay. But to get back in that place to see him, I was sent back many times. Then one of my friends, I asked him, I said, he was in Egypt. I said, if I go back and change my name, because one time I went from Egypt, they sent me back to Egypt. They wouldn't let me in. I said, what's going on? They said, you are brother. We love you. We know you from the students of the Sheikh. The Sheikh had died at that time. His place still exists. They said, but it's not us. It's America. They said, call Washington, D.C. So when I got back to Egypt, I called Washington. They said, yeah, Homeland Security put your name in the computer. What? So I asked my friend, I said, listen, if I go back to America, change my name, America always knows who you are. Your social security number is tied to you. But an old place like Yemen, they wouldn't be able to detect the face, but a new name, a new passport. They said no. He said no, they wouldn't. So I changed the name, got my stuff from here, went back to Egypt, got the new passport in Egypt. So imagine ticket and went through Adam and got back in the country. Allahu Akbar. This was what people, it was wartime. People still coming from outside the country, in the country, around the mountain, doing wartime to get to the place to seek heaven. Wallahi. Wallahi. That's this place. So the Sheikh ended up here. A man like that because of a parasite. And when he's here, he goes to LA. And that's the connection between him and Sheikh Fareed Abdullah. He's there with Sheikh Fareed in 2001. And the Sheikh heard that, Sheikh Fareed Abdullah heard that Sheikh Muqbil was here in America, but he have to make sure, like, really, he's here in our community. And so then Sheikh Fareed, he gets some high-powered questions. Depending on the type of knowledge you have, is going to depend on what type of conversations you could have Islamically, what type of questions you could ask about this and that. So he went and made up some hard questions in each science and each part of Islamic knowledge. And he asked the Sheikh, he said, if he answers these, especially in Hadith, Sheikh Muqbil, it's not an apostle, it's really him. Plus he had to speak with him. He said, Sheikh Muqbil, have his ID, his passport, but So he said, wow, that is the Sheikh Fareed. So one of the stories is that this was the last time the Sheikh Muqbil traveled to America. He went back to Saudi Arabia as he thought he was going to die. He said, get me out of here. I don't want to die in this country of disbelief. Get me out. He took him back to Saudi Arabia. Then he got worse. Then they told him, you should have stayed in America, Sheikh. Go back. He tried for the visa second time. We denied him. He went to Germany. It was in Germany, the same thing. Treating him, looked like the Sheikh was going to get better. It was his liver. The parasite ate away at the liver, ate away. So they couldn't do anything. Of course, they did different treatments, chemo, or whatever. And then finally, the same thing happened in Germany. He thought he was going to die, and he was close to dying, and he made dua. He told the story. He said he wanted to go home, and the doctor said, your vitals are too low. We can't let you go. So the doctor went out. So the Sheikh made dua, and then he got up out the bed. So everybody looked at him like, Sheikh, what you doing? You're supposed to be. He went and sat in the chair next to the bed. He told him, go call that doctor. Called the doctor back. The doctor came in and looked. He wiped his eyes because, like, is this a ghost or what? This man was just in the bed, low vitals. Who's that sitting in the chair? He said, Sheikh. So he checked the Sheikh vitals. The Sheikh vitals was normal. The Sheikh said, discharge me so I can go back to Saudi. The Sheikh said, okay. Went, get his paperwork. And they said when the doctor left out, the Sheikh did like this. Close call. But he made dua. Allah made his vitals rise to normal so he could get out and not die. Then he made it back to Saudi, and he wrote his farewell or see 10 days before he died, and he died. And the member and they said his janazah in the Haram Mecca. They said, you knew this was a special man. They said that they thought it was a king if somebody died. From Jeddah to Mecca, they said there's 4 packers you can look. Cars, they said, incredible. And they said, who was this man dying? They said, this was Imam al-Dunya, the Imam of Yemen. And subhanAllah, he's buried, they said, next to Sheikh bin Baz in Mecca. And so Sheikh Fareed, Sheikh Muqbil said about him. I read this in a book that was compiled about the Sheikh's last journeys, had poetry about the Sheikh's life, and had over 200 questions between Sheikh Muqbil and Sheikh Fareed Abdullah. He said, Fareed Abdullah, yukaffi lakum, he is sufficient for you all in America, or huwa muraji'u lakum, and he's someone you go back to with your affairs. That means the Sheikh said he's an alim. If someone says he's enough for you, that doesn't mean only go to him, but it means if you found nobody else in this land, he's enough. He's an alim. If the Sheikh say he's enough for you to go back to, it means fatawa, like this this is the language of a scholar saying about another scholar without saying in black and white he's a scholar. So that was our Sheikh Fareed. And wallahi, they said he was not born a Muslim. He grew up, they said, in Barbados. And he's from, no, not Barbados, astaghfirullah, the Bahamas. The Bahamas, that was a slip of the tongue, the Bahamas.
Caribbeans.
Yeah, Caribbean, but Bahamas, because you have different parts, so I'm going to say Bahamas, that's where he's from. And he accepted Islam. He was in the judges program in one of the hardest schools in Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Saud, Riyadh. That school itself is not for average people. And they said, one of his students said, even when he wrote his one of his research papers, the professor did not want to believe that he wrote it. He said, who wrote this? It was so technical, hadithy, and he did his research, he went into the books, he admired Sheikh Nasr al-Din al-Albani. So, we have some high-powered paper you write with positions and, showing this about the chain, this about the Sahaba, and this part of the Hadith. So they said that the teacher wouldn't believe it. It said, the student said it took Sheikh Fareed a long time to finally convince the one who's accepting this paper, this is not plagiarized, nobody wrote it for me, this is me. That's the level that he was on. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah Azza wa Jalla blessed him to be on that level, Sheikh Fareed. And many times the Sheikh would always remind us, this is not our home, this is a temporary place. A lot of his talks were about Aqidah, because Aqidah is important. You have to have the proper belief. This is the whole meaning of La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, is the belief system behind it. But you also have to have akhlaq hamida, praiseworthy character. The Shaykh often talked about that. The akhlaq of the Salaf, how the companions were. He often talked about the Jannah and the ayats in the Quran about the Jannah, whether it was from Surah Al-Rahman or Surah Al-Zumar or from Surah Al-Baqarah, Al-Imran, or Al-Waadi'ee, any part of the Quran talking about Jannah. The Sheikh Fareed was zooming in on that. And he was a man, subhanAllah. I know, many people don't know this, but we knew the Sheikh all the way back in 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, used to come to us in East Orange. And he must have been in his 40s during that time. And I remember the Sheikh really getting into no problems. He's not calling nobody any name. But some people will say that person's a munafiq. The Sheikh would never say that. He's not like me. Jump out there and say something and have to make a talk of Allah. May Allah guide me. Sheikh was very, very, very careful. If someone clearly made innovation, he would say, well, the scholar said about that person, but he wouldn't say, I say he's an innovator. No, he was very careful. And the people would try to push up on him to get him later on to make those judgments. I remember from the brothers here in America, and he would come to, and then the cult developed, and who's on, who's off it, and they would try to get the Sheikh to make these statements, because if the Sheikh would say so-and-so's off it, then they could say, Sheikh Fareed said he's off it, because they knew his name carried weight now in America. Sheikh wouldn't do it. So they stopped dealing with him, stopped bringing, telling him to come for the conference, stopped scheduling him as a speaker. They put pressure on him. He's mumayyir, he's watered down, he's mutasahil, he's like, he's, lukewarm, like this. Are you serious? He knew his place. We don't know our place. Sheikh, he knew his place, right? And that's a statement to say, be careful of the statement you may say that you may regret tomorrow. How many people make a statement today, but you will regret it tomorrow? Meaning in the hereafter, in this grave, maybe tomorrow, meaning in this life, in the future, things become difficult because you made a statement unjust about a person. Allahumma musta'an. So the Sheikh, this was some of his character he wouldn't get, and he was a person, this is something we can all take a lesson from. The Sheikh very seldom taught Sheikh Fareed. That's one of the points that this student made of the Salman when he was talking about. And I remember, you know, the Sheikh come to a conference, he speak, he drop his thing, and then when it's over, he's up rushing to get out of that conference hall, that hotel room, that masjid. Because he don't want to sit and people talking, now he's going to start talking, or he's going to be hearing nonsense. No. Sheikh fleeing from that fitna. And he's pondering, sitting, thinking about the hereafter, thinking about the deeds, while people, as we say, jaw-jacking and carrying on, you know, subhanAllah. This is a lofty characteristic of our Salaf, our companions. You know, they will watch their tongue, man. They will be afraid, you know. Abu Hurairah used to grab his tongue, like that. And remind himself, hold your tongue. Yeah. He said, Kamin, yani, unasid, ينجو بكلمة وكم من أناس يحلق يعني لأجل كلمة. يعني how many of the people became saved from the fire because of one statement? And how many of the people became destroyed because we had one statement? Yeah. Sheikh, that's another thing. Sheikh Fareed wouldn't do a lot of talking. Allahu Akbar. Wouldn't do a lot of talking. We'll ponder more, you know. And this is something we could, you know, understand, but now we're in the age of devices and looking and scrolling, you know, our minds are all over the place. But this is a lofty characteristic of the Sheikh Fareed, and many of the ulama. Find that they don't talk a lot, you know. As Salabi said, Kathar al-kalam. Kathar al-kalam to me to the qalb. Too much speaking kills the heart. What does this mean? It kills the taqwa, the seriousness that the believer should have in the heart. Because if you're talking too much, you're going to be talking jokes, saying falsehood, laughing about stuff that's really is not laughable. But we laugh because we find humor. You see what I'm saying? And, you know, this is a reminder for us when we talk about losing great people like this, because they remind you of these characteristics of the Salaf Salih, our predecessors. In our time, we can see it in them. You see, wow, that's really a man of Sunnah. That's a man, mashallah. And we're not praising them beyond what Allah has, you know, showed us, but that's the reality. So, subhanAllah. Another thing when you talk about Sheikh Fareed was a serious, they said, researcher. The student said, research, subhanAllah. And this just shows you, like, the knowledge, it takes something, patience, man. It takes patience, you know. We don't get it all at one time, you know. You don't, like, get a glass, drink it, say, okay, I'm an alim, that's it. It's not like that. It takes, you know, time. And then once you get any level of knowledge to go research that subject, that's more. And one of his students was telling the story of a Salman. He said, one time I was, you know, trying to read the book. He said, I was struggling, trying to read the book. He said, and the Sheikh of the book said, man, that big Raja. Like this. He even imitated Sheikh. He even imitated Sheikh Fareed with his voice. MashaAllah. He said, man, that big Raja. He said, what's going on with you? You know, man, like, you know, you're stressing, you know. So he said, Sheikh told him, and this to ease him, he said, when we were doing research back in, you know, when I was in Saudi Arabia, he said a lot of the books we had to use, they were the old manuscript, handwritten. Now we have printing presses, type, set, on this color paper, this type of print, easy on your eyes, bold. He said the Sheikh told him to ease, like you stressing. Look, brother, told him, he said, we were doing research when I was in Saudi Arabia, in the college, to be a judge. He said most of the books we had to go and read and research, the manuscript is handwritten, where you put that manuscript under some type of thing that reads it, it blows it up. He said, that's what we have to do. If you're stressed out about a difficulty with fine print, typeset, the harakat, but you're struggling because of the level of the work or whatever, you know, and he said it just calmed him, made him say, subhanAllah, made him appreciate it. You know. He said that the Sheikh, rahimahullah ta'ala, said was a, you know, a man of sunnah, like he was an outdoors man. He said the Sheikh would go fishing, you know, the Sheikh, you know, would go on a camping trip. He said that the Sheikh would always hear it again, the way of ourselves, the way of the Prophet, thinking about others. He said the Sheikh would always bring extra sandwiches, extra blankets, thinking about those with him on the camping trip. He said one time, he said he threw his, he said even how to put the line on the fishing rod. He said the Sheikh, you know, taught him how to tie it like this, and he said, so he even learned that from Sheikh Fareed. So he said, so once they were fishing, he threw the rod, and he was so happy, but he got a fish that was like, you know, was like bit the thing, and it got away or something like this. So he didn't catch nothing, you know. He said, so when they were going back, the Sheikh said, no. He had a big thing full of fish for the Sheikh, for the fisherman. He said, no, you got to take something. You can't go back empty hand. Take something. You know? So he's worrying about the man's self-esteem, his image. Again, this is from a person who really has knowledge, the character to go with the knowledge. You know, us, oh, you didn't catch that? Oh, man, you had to go to fishing school. Oh, tease you, make fun, let you go back empty hands. So people say, you didn't catch that? No, you didn't know. Take something. Yeah, you with me, man. Go back, shine, man. Listen, you know. Lord, you know, what a character, you know. What, you know, like we say, these people, well, they lived in our time. You know, so put us to shame. You know, so but it reminds us of the true character of the Nabi and those companions that really emulated the prophets. It was something to strive for. Yeah, something to strive for. You don't know, subhanAllah. And you know, may Allah bless was a man for putting that on the YouTube. It's not that long. I'm gonna put it on the link on my Marcus Safin on the Facebook and on my WhatsApp. Very impressive talk. I mean, I'm not doing any justice. I'm embarrassed that I'm halfway mentioning some of the way he mentioned. And he was with the Sheikh for 18 years. 18 years, man. Here in America, man. He said he left the East Coast to go to the West Coast to be with the Sheikh. And that's the sacrifice. And you can hear it. When I first heard him open up, I said, wow, this guy has ilm. Who is he? Then he started talking. Then I realized, oh, he's from this Sheikh Fareed. It shows, man. Oh, man, it shows. Like, and it's humble even telling the story. You can hear the humility. I mean, mashallah. So we ask Allah to help us, because this is what we talk about when we talk about ilm. That's the ulama, and they said that ilm khashya, the knowledge is your fear of Allah because of the knowledge you have. That's khashya. You fear Allah based on the knowledge of Him. That's when you have knowledge. It said Sheikh Fareed told him, he said, and he had a way with words. These last 2 points are very profound. About knowledge, and then, you know, somebody was sure. He said, so one day, he said, one of the brothers came to the masjid. He said the Sheikh had a way with words. And this, it really like caught my attention, because sometimes I can be too direct. And Islam is to be straightforward, but still it has to be in a way that the dignity is not lost, or, you know, that the respect of the city or the people has to be maintained. Like, for example, when we said the lady was telling her children about the dangers of porn, she could have said, if you see, and then went into detail. She didn't. She said, if you see some pop up and you see somebody, you know, nude doing crazy things. She didn't say what those things were. This is an example. Sometimes we think we gotta, get down to the numbers and describe. No, Islam is not like that. But we come from that in America, so we struggle with that. He said the Sheikh was somebody who did that often, made sure he watched what he said, made the point where he was, he never said directly something to injure you, although he still had to correct you. He said one time a person came to the masjid, he had a colored shirt that we normally wouldn't wear, like, there's a certain level of manhood, certain stuff, So I would have said, man, like, what you got, like, man, you wearing that, man? Who, like, would have made fun, but he said the Sheikh didn't say that. He said the Sheikh said, do you know the hadith of Ibn Umar? So the brother said, no. He said one time he came to the masjid and he had a certain color thobe on. He said, and the Prophet said, yeah, Ibn Umar. He said, who dressed you? Your mom? So rather than saying, man, why you wearing that, man? We don't wear colors like that. Somebody might say, that's like gays wear that color, for example. Man, you got on that color, man, we don't. Or somebody might say, man, you got on that old, grandpa type shirt. Hurt the person. But it said, the Prophet said to Ibn Umar, if I'm not mistaken, who dressed you? Meaning like, that's a kiddie type, like, wear something else. See how the Sheikh used the terminology. And he asked him, do you know a hadith of Ibn Umar? Right. Then the person said, no. Then he told. In other words, he was trying to tell him that in a way without insulting the person. Educated. Yeah, Allahu Akbar, educated at the same time. And the last point, he said the Sheikh used to say, Al-ilmu thaqilun. Al-ilmu thaqilun. Al-ilmu, knowledge. Thaqilun is heavy. Knowledge is heavy. It's heavy in its essence. It's heavy in its responsibility. It's heavy in its, ability. It's heavy in its meaning. Sometimes it's heavy in its pronunciation. The Arab used to mention how certain letters were replaced li lisan, in order to make the tongue light, like we say qala Rasulullah, qala, a qaf with a medda, qa and then a lam, qala. But the origin of qala is qawwala. Qawwala. So now you have to say qawwala Rasul. That's too heavy on the tongue. So the Arabs, yubda'u and the waw and elephant. They took the waw and replaced it with the aleph. Qawwala became qala. Yeah. That's an example of something being heavy in ilm as it relates to even in pronunciation. He said the Shaykh told him, al-ilmu thaqilun, وَلَا تُثَقِّلُوهُ عَلَى النَّاسِ بِسُوءِ الْخُلَقِ. He said the knowledge is heavy. Al-ilmu thaqilun. وَلَا تُثَقِّلُوهُ. And don't make it more heavier. عَلَى النَّاسِ, upon the people, بِسُوءِ الْخُلَقِ, with your evil character. That's a statement of the Salaf. Statement from our pious predecessors. He said Sheikh Fareed used to say these kind of statements to them. Al-ilmu thaqilun. The knowledge is already heavy. The responsibility, the amount to carry it, to practice it, to deliver it, to understand it, to say it, to review it, to keep it, to live up to it. فَلَا تُثَقِّلُوهُ عَلَى النَّاسِ بِسُوءِ الْخُلَقِ. So don't make it more heavier on the people by exemplifying that knowledge with that character. Rahmatullah alayhi rahmatullah. Allah have mercy on Shaykh. Well, this is the way of our Salaf. This is the way of our Salaf, you know what I'm saying. And the Prophet said, yes, be easy and not running away. But sometimes the Prophet would use shipped them when they had to, but the origin with the Prophet ease. Like with Aisha in the end, when the Jews, they tried to be slick and said, and they were sitting with the Prophet. You go read the dua, you just see short, but you go read the whole narration, they were sitting with the Prophet. Coming to ask him questions and this and that. So they said, Assalamu alaikum. They twisted. Thought he was going to not catch it and say, Wa alaikum salam. Two different meanings. Sam means death. Sam, like Sam's Club. Sam means death. Sam means poison. Sumum, poison. They said, Sam, ay, maut, meaning death. Alaikum, may you die. Definitely. لا أخي الحديث سام عليكم ومن السام سوم سموم كل هذه يعني يشتقوا من السام. All of this is pulled from Sam, but in the hadith they said Sam عليك سموم عليك. That's clearly, and they don't use it like that. Sam is close to Salam. Nafs wasn't. Same verb pattern. So it said Samu alaykum. Not salamu, samu alaykum. But they said samu alaykum. I could know, Lord. So Aisha went off. She said, La'natullah alaykum. You know, the curse of Allah be upon you. All the pigs and apes. The Prophet said, Mahlan, Mahlan, ya Aisha, take it easy. She said, did not you hear what they just said about you? He said, yeah. He said, but what I'm going to say, I'm the Nabi. Whatever I ask for Allah's answer, he said, Wa alaykum, same to you. Wa alaykum, same to you. Yeah. Let them tell him this statement without giving him a reply, but he took the easy way. Aisha had right, but look again, the usloob of the Prophet. He didn't want to say pigs and apes and this. مع أنهم أحق بهذه الكلام. While they have the most right to be described like this. Allah called them this in the Quran himself. Yeah. Khanazir. عبد الطاغوت. يعني pigs. يعني worship the Taghut. Allah called them these things. But for us, look at the mannerisms of the Prophet. And the Shaikh used that to show how to deal with the people. And the best way, وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي مَاذَا هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Debate, debunk, refute, admonish them in the best way. And they said the best way is the speech of Allah, the statement of our noble Prophet, the Nabi Sallallahu and Husnul Khuluq, which character is always a part of that. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enlighten the grave of both our Shaykhaini, Sheikhana Muqbil Al-Waadi'ee, Al-Imam Al-Mujaddid fi Diyar Al-Yamaniyah, Imam Al-Sunnah fi Asrina, our Shaykh, and our other Shaykh, Al-Imam Abi Mujahid fi Abdullah. Subhanallah, losing the likes of someone like this, moreover from the people that accepted Islam, the people that lived right in our midst, whether lost, whether great, tragic. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us somebody like that, replace them with people of knowledge, not replace them with the ignorant. As the Prophet said, touch to the nas wa usul juhala. They will replace the people of knowledge when they die with ignorant people for su'ilo, and then they will ask those ignorant فضلوا وأفتوا بغير علم فضلوا وأضلوا, and they will answer with ignorance, and they will be astray, and they will lead others astray. والله المستعان. هذا وصفة نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. I'm sorry again, I didn't do justice, but I just want to give the Sheikh his due and remember some of the benefits from the Sheikh. And I thank the brother for putting the talk out of Islam, and I'll send that link out and make dua for both our Sheikh Muqbil, Sheikh Fareed, and take from them the lesson. Stick to the book of the Sunnah. Stick to the way of the Salaf. Even if people will mock you, and people will say you're Wahhabi or this, we have nothing to do with Imam Muhammad al-Wahhab, first of all. Have nothing to do with him. Even the deen didn't start with him. Some narrations, some positions go way back, but say, oh, you cover your face, he's Wahhabi. You wear your garment not walking on it under your shoe, he's Wahhabi. You raise your hand after ruku, he's Wahhabi. Everything Wahhabi, Wahhabi, Wahhabi. Allah understand. So stick to the book of the Sunnah, the Athar of our Salaf, narrations of our companions, and those Tabi'een, and those ulama of the deen. Allah Musta'an. So Sabaka Nabina Muhammad. Any questions, comments around the topic?
جزاكم الله خيرا. السام يعني الموت.
Yeah, Sam. Ma'na mo. The ulama, they said that Ma'na mo, Sam. Yani mo. From this word Sam, Samum, like Allah says, Surah Al-Waqi'ah, fi, yani Samum wa Hamim. And the fire will have Samum, poison, wa Hamim, and boiling, water. So Sam is death. Samum, it comes from that. But Sam, alaykum, may you die. And not to mention, remember, they tried to poison the Prophet. They gave him enough poison when he killed, they said the elephant, but Allah protected him. He ended up dying from complications later or whatever. So Allah Muslim. And I'm Sam bima'na and Moses. That's what the ulama of Hadith said. That's not my speech. That's what the scholars of Hadith said. هذا قول عائشة. أما قوله قال يا عائشة إن الله رفيق ويحب الرفق. Allah is easy, He likes easiness. He said, my dua's asked, He just looked and said, wa alaykum. Same to him. The easy way. Yeah. Boy, I'm not, same to you, bro. Keep it moving.
Some people said like short, want to say short instead of Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum. They say like this, like make it short, and they do it.
No, but this is something different because in the hadith, the Prophet mentioned, the hadith is saying Muslim, that when Adam was created, Allah sent the angel over to say to him, Salamu alaikum. And then he said, this is the worth 10. And then he said another angel say, Salamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. When you add rahmatullah, that's 20 reward. Then send another angel over to him, says Salamu alaikum, rahmatullah, and then wa barakatuh, that's 30. He said, this is the reply for your prodigy. And Allah said, إِذَا حَيِّتُمْ نَعْمْ بِتَحِيَّةٍ فَحَيُّوا يعني بأحسن منها أو ردوها. Surah An-Nisa. When you give a greeting, give يعني one better or at least the same. So if they say Salamu alaikum, you can't be, that's enough. You only get 10 rewards though for that. Like you gave 10 salams, you get times 10. If you say Salamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, now you get 20, like you give 20 salam. If you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi and then wa barakatuh, you get 30. Some narrations of the Tabi'een, they used to say, wa maghfiratuhu. On the end. Salamu alaikum, 1. Rahmatullah, 2. Wa barakatuh, 3. Wa maghfiratuhu, in his forgiveness. Some scholars say it's not authentic. But Imam Nasr, Sheikh Nasr al-Albani, he said there's a narration, some of the Tabi'een used to add maghfirah. But if you say rahmatuhu, dakhil fi rahmatuhu, maghfiratuhu. Inside of the meaning of his mercy is his forgiveness. But some of them used to say this tawqeed in some of the salaf, but from the Prophet, we just have barakatuhu. If you take the narration of the salaf and add maghfiratuhu, no problem. No problem. That's from salaf. He said, ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُم, second, third generation. Nah, we follow them with the text. Wallahu a'lam. Father Sheikh, Imam.
Sheikh Fareed was in the Bahamas when he passed.
Wallahi, he got deported during this Trump era.
Okay.
The ban on the Muslims, this and that. And I don't know why and what happened. I don't know if the Sheikh was American citizen. paperwork, green card. He was here for a long time. It said since the 70s. I don't know if it's true. I will have to ask people like Abu Tasneem, Dawood Adib, and of course his student of Southern Man. But he said you can ask people who know him better than me. Then was with the Sheikh 18 years, but some people was with the Sheikh for a long time, go way back. Some people said he was one of the first people that went to the Imam's training course in the 70s with the likes of Imam Siraj al-Hajj. So I will have to ask Imam Siraj. They had Imam's training program. Remember when the people switched over? Yeah, from Warp Deen from the nation of Warp Deen. They had, and this is what Imam Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz mentioned, that he had scholarships to two places. What?
Al-Azhar
in Egypt and
Medina.
Right. They gave up scholarships to both. So this was common to train the imams in America. So some said Imam Fareed was one of the first ones to take that training, and then he just probably kept going. Yeah, subhanAllah, because he had a love for the ilm. And Allah made it easy for him. When you hear him read the ayats of Quran and talk, it just rolls. That's another thing that the students say. It's like Allah blessed him with the gift of getting the knowledge and just giving it. But just how it rolled off his, abilities, amazing. Yeah, so I'm not sure if he died in Bahamas or Barbados, but he definitely was in the islands. Some said he died in where he was from originally, which was the Bahamas. But I think even what Toilet was telling me when he got the call, somebody said he died in L.A. So you can't repeat everything you hear. Many people didn't know he was deported. They said, oh, he died, and they're like, man, been going for at least 6 years. At least 6 years, 7 years.
He was in Bahamas.
He was in Bahamas?
Not Barbados.
Bahamas. That's what I thought. So we got it authentically from our brother Toilet. The Sadiq, he was in the Bahamas. That's what I got.
I had to make a call to someone who's first information. Because the statement about LA.
Yeah, hey, what?
And I knew that couldn't have been true.
Yeah, hey, what's up?
So I had to make an overseas call to a first source.
So the brother, he made the call to the place itself, to people, and he died in the Bahamas, where he was originally from. Like Abu Saif, Abdul Kareem was with us at the match from the Bahamas. Yeah, this is their place they're from. MashaAllah, may Allah Azza wa Jal get to Shaikh Jannat al-Firdaus al-A'la, askannahu يعني جنة الفردوس الأعلى ويجعل يعني قبره وسعا فيه ويعني له جيران خير من جيرانه ومنزل خير من منزله. Allah give him neighbors is better than the neighbors he had. Abode is better than the abode he had. Make his grave spacious, light in it, وَثَبِّتَهُ فِيهَا, and make him firm in that. وَصَلَّى نَبِينَا مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى آلِهِ وَأَصْحَابِهِ وَسَلَّمَ تَسْلِيمًا كَثِيرًا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خير.
Sheikh, we should make the prayer probably move it up to like 9:40.
Okay, quick. So we'll pray at 9:40 tonight, and then what we do, announce it
Yes.
all the way through the week, and then on Jummah we'll tell them.
Yes.
Okay, quick.
Because it's moving up so fast.
Okay.
So I think it's coming in at like 9:20.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Should I stop the live?
This one says 9:20.
Huh?
Should I stop it?
If you know how to.
Yeah.
Don't lose it.
I won't.
Okay.
Okay, I'll stop it right now.